Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is a case that was recently not solved. I don't know why I keep wanting to say solved. Well, I'd love to say it was solved, but it wasn't. He was a child John Doe, and he finally got his identity back, and I'm not kidding, it's like after 65 years of not knowing who this boy was. And it is a very famous case. If you guys have not heard of it, it is the boy in the box. So, to tell you this story, I have to go way back. We're going to go back to 5th of February in 1957, when a body of a boy was found in a box, hence the name. It was at the side of a place called Susquehanna Road in Pennsylvania. It was a dumping site, and he was actually found naked, badly beaten and bruised. He was severely malnourished. He had scars, like I believe on his chin, and he had a few, and they thought that was from surgical scars. But despite how he appeared, he looked like he was had been recently washed, like a bath. He was clean. He had recently had a haircut, but it kind of looked like a rushed haircut in a sense. They found hair on him as well, so it looked like it had just been rushed to do so. He also had trimmed fingernails, and they thought that this boy was around the ages between 4 and 6. He had been wrapped in a plaid blanket and put in this cardboard box, and this cardboard box was found to actually be from a bassinet. You know, like one of those basket things that the babies are in. It was one of those. Now, originally, the body was first discovered by a young boy who was actually out checking his muskrat traps. So he came across this body and he didn't want to report it. And I can't really blame him. A lot of the time people think that they might be blamed for it. He also had these muskrat traps that he probably wasn't supposed to have, and so he thought the police might confiscate them. And so, he just didn't report it. He went home and went on his merry way and left the boy in the box still. And then a few days later, a college student actually spotted this rabbit running into the woods. He followed it into the woods because they knew that there were traps in there and didn't want this rabbit to be caught by them. And this is when he came across the horrific discovery. And then even then, he didn't want to report it to the police. He was reluctant. And again, I can't blame him because, it's horrific to find such a thing anyway. I don't know, maybe he was thinking that he'd get blamed for it, who actually knows, but he didn't want to really report it to the police either. But then something actually happened. A little girl went missing called Mary Jane Baker. She was 3 years old. It was all over the news. She'd actually gotten stuck in a closet in an empty house, and she starved to death, which is so sad. He saw this on the news, and then that is when he finally reported what he had found. It was determined that the boy actually died to blunt force trauma to the head area, and his body was still in a really good condition, to the point where they took lots of photographs of his body and put those photographs out into the world to try and find his identity, in the hopes that somebody would come forward and identify him, claim him. They even resorted to dressing him, putting him in a chair, sat upright, as if he was alive, I guess, I don't know, to make it more visual that, maybe you see him, maybe you've seen him, maybe you know who he is. And there's all loads of photos of that as well. There's tons of photos of him, and it's pretty, I don't know, it's really upsetting to see. I don't know. They don't normally do that nowadays, but yeah, they did then. So then his body was just kept in the morgue after all of that, and would be just kept until the police could hopefully try and find who he was and who was missing their son. So they looked into the boxes. As I've said, they were a bassinet box. They were from JCPenney's. There was 12 in total, and they tried to locate all of these. However, the people that they tracked them down to had either binned the box or still had the box. There was no way of proving that this one person, that it was their box, basically. So that was kind of a dead end. The police did a massive appeal, like I said, with the boy's face all over the place. And they found other things as well. So with regards to the blanket that he was wrapped up in, they were mass produced, so they didn't find anything with regards to that. And the police just searched the entire area. There was like 270 police academy recruits, I believe, were all out looking, scouring the area, trying to see if they could find anything else. And they did. They found a man's hat, a child's scarf, and a man's white handkerchief with the letter G in the corner. And this hat was quite distinctive because it had been personalized, I believe. So they managed to track down this hat who had made it originally. And the person that actually made it remembers making it. She remembers making it for a gentleman, but he paid in cash along with everybody else. She only made a certain amount of these hats, and that specific one, she remembers who she made it for. However, she didn't get names, and they paid in cash, and so there's no way of tracking him down. But she did manage to give a description of him. She said that he was blonde, between 25-ish to 30, and that he paid in cash. That was basically it. She'd never seen the man again, and the police really didn't have very much to go on. They began sending out flyers. I believe they sent out like 400,000 flyers. They literally put it everywhere to try and get his face out there. But years passed on, and still nobody knew who the boy in the box was. I mean, there were theories in this case, there were leads. They just all led to nowhere. And eventually the boy in the box was buried in a potter's field. He had a grave which was commissioned by the police that was investigating his case, because everyone on that case were like so close to it. They attended his funeral, they were his like pallbearers, and they buried him. And they also donated a headstone. So the headstone actually said, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." And it was marked February 25th, 1957. Eventually, he was removed from the grave again so that they could get DNA samples and things like that. Obviously, as DNA technology improved, they wanted to do that for him. They wanted to find out who he was. Then he was moved to a cemetery in Ivory Hill in Philadelphia, and he was given a large plot. He had a coffin, a beautiful headstone. He did end up having like 2 headstones, I believe. The first one, now I'm not entirely sure whether this was whilst he was in the potter's field or not. I might be wrong with that. And then he ended up getting like a new gravestone, I believe, that was then changed to America's Unknown Child later on, and that is how he is known. People keep his grave full of flowers and, you know, maintain it, because this case really has haunted them for many years. The detectives, they just really wanted to find out who he was, and so they really did try and take care of him as best they could. Like I said, he was removed a couple of times for DNA and things like that. But apart from that, nothing ever really materialised in this case. There were lots of theories though. I'm not really going to go too much into them. There was theories about a child that had been bought and sold. One actually came forward with a lot of information that kind of matched up to him. Something about her mother had bought this boy called Joseph, that she had abused him, and then she ended up severely beating him, putting him in the bath to give him a bath, and then he died in the bath. She had recently shaved his hair, like he had long hair, she'd recently shaved it. So all that information kind of matched. Don't know whether it was coincidence or whether this actually was the boy, and that was a strong theory for a very long time. And that they obviously that her mother got rid of the body to try and hide him. Jonathan, he was called, sorry, I believe, not Joseph, Jonathan. Then there was another man who was pretty obsessed with the case. He actually made a face mask of the boy that he used to carry around in his bag with him. It's a bit weird, but there you go. He was called Remington, and he was told by a psychic that this child was part of this nursing home, and so he went down there. He did claim that he saw some things that were familiar, like a blanket that looked like the ones that you were wrapped in. They also had a bassinet that was very similar to like what would have been in the box that he was found in. And he had a theory that it was like the son of one of the daughters who worked there, and that they basically killed him to try and cover it up. But I believe the daughter actually did come forward and say that she did have a son, but this boy died to electrocution, and there were records to support that. So that was kind of gone. The basis of that was that it was his sort of daughter's son who was unwanted, and that he got rid of it because he didn't want her to be outed as like unwed or something like that. So that was his main theory. Now let's skip forward many years, and the National Centre of Exploited and Missing Children released a forensic reconstruction of the boy's face. He was then added to a database in April of 2021, and as you all know, genealogy, I keep praising it, it's amazing. They are solving so many cold cases, and I don't know why they don't do it more, because they really need to, because it is so good. But they did it in this case too. And then on the 8th of December this year, so literally not that long ago, it finally came out that they had finally found the identity of the boy in the box using the genealogy technology, and a lot of work went into it to try and locate him. They've tracked down his mother, who then had a birth certificate of a boy. They still didn't know whether it was him. They managed to track down the father, who then confirmed that this was his son. And then, honestly, it's all beyond me, but it's amazing either way. And they finally have a name and a birth certificate for the boy in the box. It was found out that the boy in the box was 4-year-old Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He was born on the 13th of January in 1953, and so was the age that they had estimated was pretty spot on. Now, there still is a lot of questions in this case. Who actually killed this boy? Why was he never reported as missing? Now, he had siblings, I believe, and the parents' names, I don't think they're alive to this day anymore, but they have not been released out of respect for the family members that are still alive. It's still open, this case. We're still going to find information on it, hopefully, because we still have no idea who actually did this to Joseph. But he's finally got his name back after all of these years. It is absolutely amazing what technology can do now, and I'm just so grateful for it. But yeah, I hope that more information comes out on this case as we go along. But those family members, I wonder whether they even knew about him or whatever. If they did, they finally know what happened to him. And it just absolutely breaks my heart that this poor boy was 4, and who knows. I would be very interested to see as to whether any of the theories that came out over the years are actually true, because that is what interests me the most. When a case has been unsolved for so many years, there's all these theories, and more often than not, none of them are true. None of them are what actually happened. But I'd be very interested if that story about the woman that bought a child and killed him by blunt force trauma, gave him a bath, cut his hair, everything that matched was actually true. She said that he was called Jonathan, and he's actually called Joseph. Whether they just got that muddled up, whether they named him differently, whether it was him at all, who knows, but I'd be very interested to find that out. So yeah, hopefully more information comes out on this, but the boy in the box, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, finally has his name back, which is just absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you guys enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of the boy in the box, who we now know is Joseph Zarelli. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.